So much has happened since we did our last audio-only show about geoengineering that I wanted to have you back. And Florida and Utah has just banned fluoride in the water, and so real progress is being made on a lot of fronts.
Yeah, thanks to RFK Jr. and others.
Geoengineering has been in the news for the last month with every day a little more. Take us through these new developments. Are we at a tipping point?
Yeah, well, 4 weeks ago, you saw people in Florida with signs that said, make the sky blue again. And then we're in the second day of May, 2025, and Florida passed that legislation. And then they even went further and made it a felony offense for anyone to be tinkering with the climate in their state. Ultimately, it's just symbolic because 500 feet up is federal jurisdiction, but they're on the right track. And make sunsets. This is a company that the Trump administration is now investigating through the Environmental Protection Agency. These departments, like the Environmental Protection Agency, the Department of Health and Human Services, these are scientific departments, but they're run by the White House, and so the White House sets policy. So the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, opened up an investigation into this company, Make Sunsets. They're an overt geoengineering company, and they had a 200-year lease on the earth under Biden. How does that even happen? And that's the name of the company, Make Sunsets. And I've been spending quite a bit of time on their blog, reading through their articles, and they've got these the most bizarre images you can imagine of like flying ships, spraying flake clouds. And there's actually a New York Times article about them a year or so ago where the headlines ran, polluting the climate or polluting the skies to save the world. I don't remember exactly what the wording was, but they say they're polluting. They call themselves polluters, but they justify it for this alarm of climate change. And you can't talk about overt geoengineering without talking about covert geoengineering, and the two of these feedback with each other. And countdown to insanity now in England, where all the newspapers in England over the last week have been running stories about this geoengineering program that England is getting ready to do, and now just days away. And they openly announced that they're going to be blocking out the sun. And the way that they say they're going to do it is through airplanes that they're going to send up that are going to spray chemicals in the sky to block out the sun. So the elites are going to decide who gets the sun. Make Sunsets used hot air balloons. That was their technology. They filled hot air balloons with sulfur. Hot air balloons would go up. They would release sulfur in the sky, block out the sun. Now, thanks to Trump. Why don't we hear about Trump, the environmentalist? He's using the Clean Air Act, to the law that says, we have a right to clean air. He's using that to try to get some of these overt geoengineering companies shut down. But I've been reading, like every day, there's more and more articles about this plan in England to geoengineer the planet. And they all talk about critics to the plan, but it's always from the point of view that critics say that doing solar radiation management or stratospheric aerosol injection, it won't address the underlying issues, which are reducing carbon emissions. They never tell you about this group of environmentalists, of which I am part, that criticize geoengineering on the basis of having seen it for over 30 years. And it's all about normalizing the young generation to be able to accept geoengineering as normal. So in 30, 40 years, they can say, well, we started doing it a long time, and nobody would even care. They would even thank the people. And the people are so wound up and so hysterical about climate change that most people with that mentality think that geoengineering is a good thing. Okay, 2 days ago, Robert Kennedy Jr., of course, who's in charge of Health and Human Services, he was on Dr. Phil. Dr. Phil is a psychologist, but he has a He's a mainstream journalist. It's a mainstream show, goes to all over the United States. And there was a question and answer period with the audience. And one of the women in the audience just asked RFK Jr. about the overhead spraying, the stratospheric aerosol injection, and I was raining down these chemicals, and what's he going to do about it? And he actually answered the question. He says, it's not going on in my agency. We think it's being carried out by DARPA, which stands for Defense Advanced Research Project Agency. They're an arm of the Pentagon. And he said, we're bringing in somebody that's going to be studying this and only this, and we're going to try to put a stop to it. That's very remarkable that a head of an agency would say such a thing and acknowledge it.
What does it mean, though, to have a member of a federal agency say they are investigating DARPA? Who is DARPA? Could there be pushback? Didn't they kill his father and uncle for questioning too much the entrenched interests? Could this be Captain America's Civil War?
Well, yeah, Captain America's Civil War. That's a good one. It shows that all the agencies that are coordinated through the Trump White House are not in agreement with each other because, of course, DARPA is an arm of the Pentagon and the Defense Department. They also work very closely with the CIA, and they're the ones that are doing all the experiments in nanotechnology and robotics. They're very evil. Journalist David Icke, once he was talking to Brian Rose, and he said, if I call DARPA evil, then evil might sue me for defamation of character. I mean, and it depends, you know, how much the other people in the agency, in the Trump administration, those that are closer to the military, how much they're aware of this or could become aware of this. And yeah, they did kill his father and his uncle for questioning the entrenched interests. And we might very well see sort of a civil war, but I don't know, because you know, this has been so covered up, and so RFK Jr. says something on national television, and we all get excited, and it's like they're throwing crumbs to us, and so we're grabbing the crumbs to gobble them up. But this is such a geoengineering and the chemtrails. It's such a grave situation that the United States and the world faces that we need more. We need a national discussion about this. You know, I grew up in the shadow of the Cold War, and we were very conscious of the dangers from nuclear radiation. But these nanoparticles that are raining down, they're contaminating every bite we take, every breath that we breathe, and they stay in the environment forever. And I don't think we realize, because of the invisibility of ethereal substances, we don't realize just how threatening this is. It's like spraying insecticide. It is spraying insecticide over all of the earth to kill the plants. And people who are close to the forests say that they're seeing most of the forests die, the insects are disappearing. So it's a grave situation. And thank you, RFK Jr., but you know, he's in a very difficult position. And I know he's also, he says what he thinks he can get away with politically, and he's doing a lot, but we need more.
Tell us about the talk you gave yesterday.
Yes, well, I was invited to speak at a conference of lawyers throughout Latin America, and I was talked for 20 minutes about geoengineering in Spanish and in English. They had people from Brazil, Chile, Argentina, and thank you, Holly, for helping set that up. We even got to talk a little bit about what it means living in the age where information is seemingly at our fingertips and it's hard to know what to believe.
Yeah, okay, and I'll release an audio-only version for those who follow us on YouTube and the Academy's Facebook, so stay posted. Just before I let you go, though, clue us on motivation.
Sure.
What's the motivation behind weather modification with the clandestine aerial fumigation being its chief component? What motivations are there?
Yeah, well, there's a lot, and It's always funny when people ask me this question because when it comes to the great butchers of the 20th century, Stalin, Hitler, Mao, we don't ask why did they do what they were doing, killing so many people. We just understand they were crazy and they were evil. So I think we have this idea in this part of the world that we live in this time in history that our leaders are somehow virtuous since we look for rational reasons. And that's okay because we can find motivations. The chemtrail spraying really got underway in the 90s, and that's also when the genetically modified organisms really took off. And it's a way to weaponize the weather because if you're a small farmer or you have an organic farm, you depend on knowing the cycles of rain, when there's going to be rain, and these substances they're spraying, that they can prevent the rain. When people think of geoengineering, the first thing they think about is cloud seeding in Dubai, where they actually make rain, and undoubtedly that is an application. But they can, depending on the chemicals they use and the frequency they hit the clouds with, they can also prevent rain. So if you're a genetically modified food company and you're waiting to buy property, then you can buy up property that is going. And also with there's this action and reaction. What we're seeing with overt geoengineering now that's being shut down in the United States, now it's starting off in England, they're reacting to the way the climate is. And so while governments acknowledge cloud seeding, why is there the drought in the first place? The drought in the first place is from the geoengineering. So it's a bit of a circular reasoning, but there's another aspect, and it's this weird weather derivatives. These are stocks that people can buy on the stock market to hedge their risk against weather. So, for example, if you're in an energy company and you think that more people are going to be consuming your product because of extreme weather, like consuming air conditioning or heating, you can hedge your risk by buying weather options. So like if you think your risk is going to be $1 million, you buy insurance for $10 million, you control the weather, you then make a profit so the same people that are largely invested in the stock market and buying, it's called hedging. It's this type of stock that depends on certain things happening, in this case, the weather. These are the companies like Raytheon and Lockheed Martin, these defense industry companies that are also doing the modeling for the Weather Channel and for all the.
Who in the world is doing the spraying?
Well, in addition to these arms companies like Lockheed Martin, Boeing, Raytheon, there's a military component, the military, the Air Force, the Navy, the CIA, and of course, DARPA.
Interesting. And what Kennedy said about chemicals being added to the jet fuel, is that you're reading as well?
Well, okay, so if you go to see the clip that he did on Dr. Phil, he talked about them adding to the jet fuel. But in these videos that we see the airplanes starting to spray, then turning them off. We see airplanes next to each other, one's leaving a trail, one's not. And you can't just say that it's commercial aircraft when you're in a town like I was in Eureka, California, that's so rural, and all day long airplanes are going, doing loops, zigzags, and boxes, 5 minutes in any direction, same story. So talking about contamination in the jet fuel really is a distraction, I think, from the spraying and from looking at the spraying mechanisms. But Kennedy is being very political. He's saying what he can get away with.
What do you think about fake suns and fake moons? Are these possibilities too? After all, if the clouds are fake, sooner or later they're gonna have to make fake planets, right?
Well, yeah. About 5 or 6 years ago, there's a lot of mainstream articles about how China was going to put fake moons in the sky. And it was in Forbes magazine. It was in a lot of mainstream magazines. And if you go to Google now and do a search on China fake moon, you see all these articles from 5 or 6 years ago. it's hard to find articles about if these fake moons were ever operational. The argument is that there's so much smog in places like Shanghai that they can't see at night, and so instead of street lights, they could hang up a fake moon. I don't know if they put it on a satellite or not. There's a lot of fake moons that China has, and the sun simulators. That's very real. The only question is to what extent they're operational. We were talking a minute ago about these companies like Boeing, Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, these weapons manufacturers, but they'll openly tell you that they have sun simulators, and they'll show you pictures of their plans. Whether or not they're operational, that's hard to say, but you can see where this is going, because with the sun simulators in the future, they could turn it off and on and then claim that that's global warming. So as soon as you start seeing proposals for these things, we have to at least ask the question, are these things operational? And so unfortunately, this is a brave new world that we've been living in for a long time.
Okay, thank you so much, Patrick. Thank you.
My pleasure.